best trades happen when the daily and weekly TSI and other oscillators are oversold and turning when they're in confluence. Those are the best. And they happen, we'll look at some examples. And that's when we really want to get long and have strong positions and conviction and add to the position as we're getting back. Often that happens when it's in a downtrend though, and you're worried about overhead resistance. And that's why we leg into trades. And then we get up above the 21 and 50 EMA, we get up above the sell blocks, and we start breaking out into above resistance. And it's time to sort of fully go long. Then we get a weekly ERI, and then so that's why it's very difficult to go all in and all out. That's not what the best traders do, unless you're like a pro day trader. That's the whole different story. Trading with margin, different story. We're talking about swing trading. That's what we're here for. Hopefully I haven't lost you guys. So within that analogy, started losing my train of thought there. Within that analogy, we want to be watching all of this and in confluence. So again, if daily is turning higher, we might have a short-term push. Maybe it's a bear market rally though. It's that weekly we want to be mindful of. And if we're in a macro weekly downtrend, but we're also oversold on the daily, we could push up higher. Let me see if I can find an example there. This is the weekly time frame, and let's take a look. I think probably maybe some of you are lost on that. So way back here, ideal entry, September, October. Remember 2023? It was ideal entry, and then back around here in October again. But let's use this because these are rare. This is a prime example. See this? Sure, we have the ERI, TSI, Signal, and RSI Pro. Okay, the four horsemen. Those are the times to go all in, right? And then a prior one, we also kind of had a similar scenario back at the cycle bottom. Remember that we had that. I don't want to go too far back. Just focus right here. And this is right around September 11th, 2023. Let's say we were to go back there and also saw the daily TSIs turning up. Confluence, buying that would have been a little scary though, below the 21 and 50, but still I would have done it. And then price started squeezing here. If we have the ERI ribbon, that's one we don't always talk about, but it is a great one to have sort of at your disposal. That's a free signal here, and this here EMA ribbon. There's several of them, but when you see those tighten like that, and then prices like when it's so congested that you can't tell the EMAs apart, the coil, the spring is condensing, ready to be sprung. And so when price gets above, like this was a great signal here, pushed off, but we didn't have our signals lining up, and we were overbought, so it didn't work. This is sort of time-bound capitulation, sort of waited, and now it got oversold. I'm glad we're getting into this because this is stuff we don't always venture into. And then we had the ERI, again, the early reversal indicator. Guys, so glad that we found this, discovered it. We'd be kind of lost. We wouldn't have as much insight. And if you remember back then, I know a couple of you have been around that long. Rick, you've been around that long. We were getting in late. We had the trend indicator, we had the TSI, the signal. But I was saying to Joe, I'm like, Joe, we're getting in late on these. There's got to be a way to catch right at the bottom. And he's like, well, and then we sort of had a sort of pattern recognition, accidental discovery. I think it signifies programmatic buying and selling. Anyway, you guys have heard the story, but look at that, beautiful, boom. Do we buy on the arrow? No, we buy on the confirmation here. But that's right when we were getting in. I want to go full screen on this. Right when we were getting in and getting those EMA ribbons condensing. Burn this into your brain, you guys. Coming from oversold, and this is all back to that normal pattern of breaking a resistance, retesting as support. And when we get our signals on the weekly basis, we get our signals, boom, 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 it's go time. That's sell the house, sell the car, sell the kids. Don't sell the kids. But you know what I mean? Don't sell your house either, I'm kidding. But we don't get many opportunities like that. And my point being, let me come back, bring that around on that daily, weekly time frame. Let's say even right now, On the weekly time frame, we have bearish TSI heading lower. So I think we have another week of bleed. I think Bitcoin comes down a little bit. It's probably gonna come down a week, maybe 2 weeks. Look at this. See right here? So if we close this week, this is probably what happens. Okay, we have this 1, 2 rally. Look at that. We have several examples of this. Normally we don't, but we're sort of right in that same range on this TSI. You can draw limited trend lines on these. It's not something I would do all the time. It's not like on the RSI, usually I will. So don't start drawing these and think that's tradable. But we're just kind of looking for clues right in this range, 45, 55, usually 40, 60 in that mid range. But look, so from here, 1, 2, even 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks bounce, that took a little bit longer. To time the cycle low is about 2 weeks. So from here, 1 week, we have to think about the end of this week though. I don't know. We'll see, you guys. But down in this range, we can certainly bounce. Maybe it's early March. Pardon me. And we'll have to wait and see. However, point is, I have a point. We have this looking bearish on the weekly. Move this up here now. But what does it look like on the daily? I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it's important you understand. I think it's still confuses some of you. And on the daily, yeah. So here's my point. And let me go big screen on this, or big on the charts. So here, perfect example. On the daily, we're oversold. And see how we got green right here. And showing, hey, bullish TSI. That's good. We should get in, right? We had an ERI and a bullish engulfing candle. We should get in, right? Well, not so fast. There are mitigating factors, and that's why you need to use the trade success checklist, because we might have had a trade success score of at least 2 here. Why? ERI 1, bullish engulfing 2. 2's not enough. We had an RSI Pro green 3, so I might be like, yeah, this trade looks good enough on the daily time frame. However, then you'd have to go and click on the sell blocks. That's a -1. Now we're down to 2. Below moving average resistance. Okay, that's a minus also. And then below trend line, maybe a resistance. So that would have netted out to 0. So we're zigzagging, but we're still below the ERI ribbons. EMA ribbons. Sorry, I haven't had coffee yet. And so that's why I want to be really careful. The point I was trying to make, let me just get to the point, is on this signal, let's say we go green here on this TSI, we have an RSI showing bullish divergence. Is that bullish? Well, again, no. Short term, yes, but probably we reject here at 97K again and head lower because that momentum, the cruise ship is still heading to St. Martin, and this wants to go to St. Bart. Guys, I'm going on a cruise next month, so I have a Caribbean on my mind. And so mark your calendars. I'll be gone. I'll be gone March 15th for a week or so on the San Juan Social Cruise, and a bunch of crypto people. Brock Pierce will be there. It'll be fun. But the Wi-Fi is usually terrible. Maybe Branson's figured out how to fix that. Anyway, I digress. Point is, and I'm way off. I'm going to get back to your question, Rick. But so on the daily time frame, we're about to go green on the TSI. Let's say we do. I have an alert, perma alert, crossing up 20 on the daily TSI. Are we bullish? No. Why? Bearish on the weekly. We could make profit. You could potentially buy here, but I would sell it into that range. Why? Because the weekly is down. Now, that was a very long-winded path to your question. And now I would look at the 1 hour, 4 hour. We'll come back to Saul, which is doing, is on process of bottoming, but stay with me. So on the Bitcoin, so if we were up for and considering a day trade, swing trade, understanding it's likely going to reject at those dropping EMAs on the daily, the sailboat, right? Then I would start to look at the 4 hours, say, all right, do we have a bullish scenario here? And we might say, well, we have a bullish TSI, maybe we have an ERI, but it doesn't matter. Look at all the sell blocks there. So that's when I'd say, all right, that's a disqualifier. So, what we want to do is kind of make an initial evaluation on a trade, and then I try to invalidate that. That served me well. Instead of trying to say, well, yes, no, maybe this, maybe that, start with the daily, weekly, and our signals. Do your trade success checklist. Guys, use that. How many of you have seen anything like that before? This is not a pitch. You guys get it free. If you don't have it, go to moonstream.io/free checklist if you haven't been coming to the Crypto Mastery classes. And the reason I'm going to stop doing them is nobody was showing up, except for M3 members, and it was becoming repetitive. The initial plan was to put it out to our very apathetic email list, drum up some new business, and nobody cares, it seems. So I have better other things to do. How about that? And I want to give you guys my best stuff and not be diluting it. So download this. It's all self-explanatory. I'll do a video on that soon with my fancy new video gear. So just as a poll, and to make sure there's a pulse out there, how many of you are using this? How many of you have questions on this? How many of you would like me to do a video on this? I'm not going to cover it now because we've covered it ad nauseum in the live classes. But I do want some, guys, I'd love to have some guidance and feedback for what you'd like me to cover. How can I add more value to the classes? Because I mean, you may not realize this, but I'm up here without a tightrope, kind of guessing. And the feedback's been generally good. It's all been good, end of class. But I don't want you guys to leave without having any questions, especially right now. Back to the 1 hour, 4 hours. So basically what we did is we did multiple time frames, looked at the daily, said, well, we're about to break up on the TSI. We have bullish divergence here. Should I buy? And then you sort of like, well, let's invalidate it. Invalidated it here on the daily. The weekly's bearish, still heading lower. Let's revisit that. Some of this is a bit of review, but like repetition is the mother of all learning. And that's a writer downer. But this here to me, very bearish. Like, not bullish. Let's just say that. So there I've negated the trade on the weekly, but let's say still on the daily, we think there's a swing trade out of this. Let's pretend there were some buy blocks here and we thought it would push higher, knowing that the weekly's still bearish. Then you'd go to the 1 hour, 4 hour and say, all right, well, what do I think here? And then right here we'd say, no, invalidated. Sells, sell block, sell block, sell block. Sellers are not exhausted here. They are lining up to sell Bitcoin. But same point, but it's a narrow range here because we've got all the buyers here. This is generally a bullish wedge. And back to my original point that, and thank you for, Ben sort of, I hadn't heard the phrase time capitulation before. That's just when the sellers and buyers give up. They're like, I'm tired of waiting around for this thing. I would just call it consolidation, but it's true. People get bored and tired of waiting around for stuff. Hey, this is Brett from Moonstream. If you'd like to learn more about our pro trading signals or our live classes every Wednesday or our Retire Rich program, go over to moonstream.io/start.